Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us. Jamila, thank you for coming back on. We were worried, and I'm just pressing go live on Instagram as well. Thank you to everyone that is joining us. I'm Anissa Turan and joined by my host Jamila Kassim, and we'll shortly introduce Chantal and her amazing bio and what she does. To those joining us on the replay, thank you for participating and sharing your comments. Those that are here today, we have our regulars. Thank you for your interaction as always. Always very wise, insightful comments that comes through. So without further ado, I just want to mention, Tamila, there is a bit of background noise on your side.
Anissa, what I'm going to do is try to just log off and come back on again.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
See you in a bit.
So we captured this conversation today, burden to blessing, and how these perceived burdens can be catalysts to transcend to our higher self, right? But today, our esteemed guest, I love her topic because she educates for and enables a greater understanding of emotional fitness. We think it's always only about physical fitness, but it is about that mental fitness. What I love is that she co creates strategies to build and sustain emotional, mental, physical, and wait for it, I love this part, relational fitness through coaching, training, writing, and speaking engagements. Chantal's mission is to support the growth and development of emotionally fit, connected human beings. She speaks my language, by the way, that want more for themselves and the world that they live in. Leveraging strengths and diversity, she offers a both and approach. I want to hear more about that to improve performance that includes building emotional fitness, self care, and the most important one, heart centered leadership. She lives by the maxim that change starts with you, and the way to improve work, life, health, and well being is to reconnect to your body's intelligence. So we've got Jamila just coming back. So let's just get Jamila back onto stage.
Hi, Anissa.
And to
How's that? Is it better?
much, much better, much better. So,
Great.
Jamila, I
That's
have just
fantastic.
read Chantal's very intriguing bio. I'm going to let you kick off the conversation today and kick off with your first ask of Chantal.
Yeah. I think welcome, Chantal, and welcome to everybody. And thank you for joining us for our episode today. And I'll just say that Chantal and I have known each other now for a good few months, I would say, and we've we've made acquaintance through mutual friends, and we're all on the same path. And it was my pleasure, and I think she'd have a lot to share with us today on what it is that she actually does. And she's also collaborates a lot with a business partner of mine. So, we have such shared interests and shared valued friends. So, Chantal, as you know, our theme for these podcasts is shifting from a place of grudge into grit, grace, and gratitude. And maybe you just want to share with us what your thoughts are about this, related to what you do, related to your life.
Mm. Yes, I love it. I think the grudge to grit, grace, and gratitude is really lovely because I think that uh, you know so much of our lives can be sort of the foundation of our lives can often be as adults drudgery, and we can begrudge the fact that we have to get up and we have to do work and we've got to get through the traffic and we've got to deal with all the issues that we have to deal with, specifically in this country, in South Africa. But for me, for me, should I say, a large part of my life, leading up to a particular point, I was very energized, very ambitious, very wanting to learn, to do, to to grow as a person. I worked in corporate environments. I studied very sort of almost liberal arts kind of degree and became an English teacher. I loved English. Didn't stay there long, but my heart was really sort of to be out there and to learn and to grow, and then suddenly all of that sort of came to a standstill, because I kind of got a little bit disenchanted with the corporate world. It felt like, things would change just to stay the same, like over and over again. And I wasn't a political animal. I certainly, just was not interested in being political and finding my way through the structures on a political basis. And then I left the corporate world and went and worked for a family business with my father and my brother in manufacturing. And you go from corporate to manufacturing, it's really a big jump. It's a huge jump. I would often ask, what the hell am I doing here? Like, why on earth am I here? And it was really because it was a family business, and I had some drive and desire to make a difference in that space. And I stayed there for 13 years. But by the end of it, it had become a bit of a grudge and a drudge. It was like I'd done everything that I needed to. I wasn't technical. I wasn't sort of operational. I really wanted to get out there and do more and do better and find my heart center. And then I did leave, and I went and did, I'd done some coaching beforehand. I brought coaching into the business. I sort of thought coaching was really the place to be and to engage on that level. And so launched out and went to do my master's in leadership coaching and started my own practice. But that was really the beginning of the beginning, because even though I was coaching and I was like, I think this is what I want to do and this seems so great, but why am I constantly anxious? Like, what is going on? I'm still so anxious. Things are just like, I'm supposed to be doing what I love, and I still don't feel like I'm there. And it was through working for an NPO, which I used to say was my heart work. The NPO worked in the under-resourced education space, and then also working together with Matthew, my partner. Then he wasn't my partner, but working with him, and sort of our work sort of came together. And he one day sat down very, very early in our relationship, and he sat down and he said, yes, I think we can work together. And I thought this man was crazy in the head. Like, really, can't see us working together. Doesn't seem to fit. But somehow we managed to come together. He working in a more therapeutic environment, sort of with what was then what is known as EFT or tapping. And then me, I'm like, I don't work in therapy. I don't do this helping stuff. No. I work with whole resourceful people, and we work to grow and to develop. I don't help and rescue. But we sort of came together and we built this practice, because then I thought, okay, you can use this work. I think we can use it not just to help and heal, but we can use it to grow and develop. So that was where I wanted to go, was with the growing and developing, and we sort of experimented with it. And then there was a time when we were working for this NPO that Matthew kind of just said, we have to do something, because the amount of trauma that we're seeing in the school space is just not helping. We have to do something to change what is going on in the school environment, because it doesn't matter what you do. If you're sitting in trauma, you're not going to be able to learn. So we need to deal with that. And so, I don't know, I sort of went, okay, cool, I'll kind of come along on the journey and we'll see where we went. And all of a sudden, like, Matthew was really, really engaged with it. And then over a period of a number of months, this process called Shape of Emotion developed. And I was sort of coming along for the ride, and then really engaging with the process and seeing the potential for it. And then suddenly it was like, okay, there's real stuff here. We can do something with this. We can really make a difference. So we went on this mad journey, doing research, piloting, working with people, kind of throwing it at people and say, try it, learn it, do it. And this was 2018, going into 2019. And at that stage, certainly in this country, people were only starting to even get with sort of the idea of mindfulness, the idea of working, sort of, with your emotions. It was still quite new. I mean, we were really ahead of our game at that stage, and it was quite different. It was quite difficult to get a stronghold, because we went into the school space, and the schools were like, this is amazing, this is great for teachers and for kids, but sorry, we don't want to do it. It's like, oh, great, thank you, fabulous. So when I mean they don't want to do it, it's just the school environment is such that the teachers were just so busy doing so many other things that they really didn't have the capacity to do it as well. And we would move and change, and we would do different things to try. Then we sort of did what we call our outsource model. And the idea was that we would train social workers who work in the school space to utilize this process in group setting. Because for us, the biggest thing was whatever we did needed to work with children as well as adults. It needed to work in a group setting because of the scale of the problem. And we wanted something that was an African answer for an African problem. I mean, obviously we take stuff from a whole variety of environments. So, EFT is Western, but we have the pressure points, which is Eastern. We have also some elements of Africa, which we bring in the call and response. But we really wanted to do something that we could do in groups, and we could help. But, life will say, yes, it's fantastic, but sorry, not for us just yet. Mm-hmm. And then we were going to, as I said, going to work with the social workers. And that was at the beginning. It was the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. And we all know what happened in 2020. So yes. We were on a particular journey, and then we were sort of suddenly, the hatches were brought down, and sorry, but you're not going to be able to do this because you're not going to be able to do this. And we transitioned online, and we did what we call emotional fitness classes online, just basically for everyone. We worked on a platform called Insight Timer. We did live sessions. We put all kinds of meditations on the platform as well. And we did these things called emotional fitness classes, which was great. We were doing up to 7 classes a week. And it was great. We were doing that for a large part of, and it was going to a global audience as well, which was really lovely. So we were showing our work to a global audience. But I think that, what happened with COVID was that a lot of people were getting a lot of things and they weren't paying for it. So a large part of our journey and a large part of our challenge was, we've got this amazing product, we've got this amazing stuff that we do, but nobody wants to pay for it. They literally just don't want to pay for it, because they've got to a point in COVID where everybody was getting things for free. And we know we can get a lot for free. Go on YouTube, we can get stuff for free. We can get a lot for free. But, you can't eat free for supper. So, you can't eat good for supper. You have to eat as well. And so we tried to transition, and we tried to transition in a whole variety of ways. Are we going to do it online? We tried online. Are we going to do it electronically? We tried electronically. We tried a whole lot. We got lots of feedback. We got lots of people telling us, what you're doing is idiotic. You need better screen presence. You need better this. You need better that. So I think for us, where are we? 2022. I think it was 2022. Last year was 2023. Am I right? I have to get my years right.
Correct.
2020. So 2020 for a lot of people was like really tough and hard and terrible, and it was terrible. 2021 was like, we've just come out of COVID, but bang, we back into it with all the other things that, the lockdowns that we had. So 2021 was also, sometimes people say 2021 was worse than 2020. For us, 2022 was the worst. Was the worst. 2022 was the worst. It was like nothing we tried was working. It didn't matter where we went. People were like, very nice for them, not for us. It really was tough. And at the end of 2022, we were like, okay, we actually can't do this anymore. We're about to expire. In the process, what we've done is we developed this amazing theory around emotional fitness, a definition around emotional fitness. We developed the 5 pillars of emotional fitness as well. And we basically came into at the end of 23 into 24 with all this content. We had this amazing amount of content, but nobody was really interested in it until Matthew went and had a chat to somebody at a market, a Christmas market in 2022. And he makes friends. I say to him, you go out and make friends, because he makes friends wherever he is. And he made friends, and he met this person, and she said, oh, you sound like the kind of people that I need. And he was like, that's great, fine. When you come back from leave, get hold of us. That's perfect. And we kind of tucked it away because we'd known this often happens. People go, yeah, you're the people we want, and we never hear from them. And so we expected the same. We really did. We expected the same, and we were very, we were greatly surprised when this person contacted us in the new year and said, come and speak to me. She runs she's the head of a foundation for a private girls' school, and she has all these young people from Alex that come to Saturday school. And she was saying, I'm now the head of it. She's like the head of the foundation, and she says we need an answer for mental health. We need a psychosocial support because these kids are battling. They've just come out of COVID. We need something. So we went in and we kind of just developed stuff as we went along. But our emotional fitness, so we constantly were talking around emotional fitness. So not only the process, so we'd moved away from the process. We say that's higher grade. When you go to do the process, you've kind of reached a level where you are into mindfulness, you understand it, you really want to work somatically, you want to work with body processes. We use it in coaching and what have you. But when we were talking to people about programs, doing this was like a little bit a step too far for most people. But talking about emotional fitness was something that people could understand. They were like, okay, now you're talking about something that I can understand. And then the different elements of emotional fitness, which we call the 5 pillars: thinking, feeling, moving, nourishing, and relating. So there are those 5 pillars. And so it's like a holistic approach to the way that we are, the way that we live, and building emotional fitness. So we say emotional fitness rather than mental fitness. We talk about emotional health rather than mental health, because our experience as well has taught us that when people talk mental health, they think that you're going to think there's something wrong with me.
Yes.
And we don't talk about that there's anything wrong with you. We believe that you're resourceful, that you're capable, and that, it's a little bit like starting a physical fitness regime. We have to start somewhere. And it's the same thing with this emotional fitness. And so a large part of what we do at the moment is in youth. So it's youth and it's young adults, because we got to the point where we were like, adults think they know everything, and they really are not interested. They like this, but they're not really interested. It's like a little bit, step too far for many. So we're going to start where they're still pliable, they're still open to learning new things. And so we work with teens and we work with young adults, and we basically teach a whole lot of things, including the work that we do, but we call it the Superpower Program. And we say, you're your own superhero, and we're going to teach you all about your superpowers that you didn't know that you had. And we teach them around focus, breath work, movement, creativity, touch, which is what we call our snack, which is part of the process that we do. And we're teaching them a whole lot of skills that are building their emotional fitness and setting them up for adulthood, really, because these are skills that they can take for the rest of their life. They can use it for the rest of their life. So that was our angel who came and allowed us to start this work and really sort of embed it into some young people who really need it.
I love that story because it means that you had to have a certain level of grit amidst this period of time, because you were so passionately inspired. And like all of us entrepreneurs, when we have this brilliant concept or idea and we know it's for the greater good of humanity, and we want to get to the root cause of where these problems are originating from, as you have now identified. Yes, we need to get to the parents as well, I think, because the children suffering with whatever those traumas are is coming from home, right? But I'm intrigued to hear, how did you then apply all of these concepts and ideas and tools and frameworks for yourselves? Because like you said, there's no free food. You still have to eat. So talk to us maybe about the journey from 2018 up until the time that you were like, at what stage did you want to give up? And what made you persevere?
Yeah, so we really, at the end of 2022, I was like, we can't do this anymore. I'd lost energy. I'd lost a certain level of belief that, I was like, I don't know how much I can do. I don't know how many times we can, because we got to the point where it was like, we don't want to have to convince anymore. It's really, really tough. And we talk about, we are a giant team of two. So whatever we do, it's the two of us with a bit of help on the sort of web, on the design side. We have a bit of help on the design side, but most of the stuff that we do ourselves. And so we've developed programs, we've done podcasts, we have a weekly newsletter that we send out. We develop content constantly for programs and training and workshops like I currently am doing. We do research, so we go into, so we do a lot. But anyway, by the end of 2022, it was like we're going nowhere. We everywhere we turn, and at that stage, I have to say, we were really trying to. We were aiming our work at adults. So we were positioning it to go into adults and to the work environment. And although we got some interest around stress management, we got some interest, it still was really quite a hard slog. And so it was just like we would get in, but there would be no traction. It would just be like, it would really be very hard to get traction, to actually get people to come and to get people to engage with and to actually do the work. So it just got so hard. We just lost energy. So at the end of 2022, it was like I said, okay, I think we're going to have to go out and look for jobs. And, looking for a job is like doing a job. And the last time I looked for a job, I was a lot younger. I was in a very different place. Things were very different. You kind of did things differently in those days. You went to recruitment agency, or you looked in the newspaper for adverts. I mean, this is what you did. You went and looked for open. We had newspapers in those days. I don't even know if they have newspapers anymore. So it was very different. What you do. Real ones. I think Sunday. But you can see I don't read newspapers, so that's another thing. It's part of my mental health regime. I don't read newspapers. But so it was like, oh my word! Now I've got to do a CV, and I've got to put myself on all these platforms. It was like, oh, I can't think. And look at me. I'm white. I'm a woman, and I'm not that young anymore. So it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Excuse my language. What am I going to do? Anyway, I put myself out there. I tried all kinds of things, content creation, writing, all kinds of stuff, but I got absolutely nothing. It was it was just pathetic. It was really pathetic. I think I went for one interview. That's what I went for.
Chantal. But Chantal, what at that stage, did anything like imposter syndrome rear its ugly head at that point in time? Did it show up for you?
No, it was just, I think it was more, I think it was not so much imposter syndrome. It was more like where I was age and stage. So here I am in age and stage. This is what I've done with my life. I know I have value. I know I can add very value. The reality is in the world out there, the reality certainly in this country, and rightly so, is that there is, there's a requirement for a certain set of skills, a certain age bracket, and certainly not a white female in her 50s. I mean, honestly, I'm sitting second last on the scale because, below me is the white male. And, it's real. It's not a resent. There's no resentment there because, I understand. And in a country, certainly in this country, where we have such high levels of unemployment, it's understandable. So, it was more like a grappling with, okay, do I really want to go and work in a company? Ooh. But if I get great, at least there'll be a level of consistency. But my heart wasn't there. So obviously the universe was, well, heart isn't there, so we're not going to send you anything interesting either.
Yes.
And so I went into December feeling a bit miffed, like feeling, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I must learn how to macrame and just go and sit in a market.
But
Or,
yeah, I can understand your frustration, Chantal. And I think once you become an entrepreneur and you start working for yourself, it's very difficult for you to go back now into corporate or to go back and work for a boss.
Yes.
And I think that once you've found your passion and purpose, it makes it all the more difficult because it's something that you have to drive. It's something that you want to push. It's your mindset, your thoughts, and how you want to put forward your servitude, I guess.
Yes.
So it's very, very difficult and difficult to go back into an environment where there isn't that connection between heart and head.
Yes.
Or to work in an environment where there is no soul, really.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So and in as much as I know that you've said that you found your angel, but I think that you manifested that, and that was a time. It was a time that it was meant to have happened because you were still sitting. You were, you made sure that you gave it your all in that grit stage. And of course, the next logical step was for it to happen and unfold the way that it did. So I think that also as entrepreneurs, we go through so many different industries and we have so many different interests and we try everything, but it's all your path that's leading you to where you are meant to be. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry.
yeah.
Oh,
And
yes.
commend you also for keeping, the faith in what it is that you wanted to do, because I think that's what we all search for, and when you find it, you just want to hold on to it very tightly. And it's also, I just find so much of value in what you're doing in shaping and guiding and um, forming these informing these young minds, at school level, because I don't think, I can speak for myself, and I'm assuming that we were all in the same era or at the same,
More or less.
yes, nobody was there to give that to us,
No.
or to offer that for us. So I think that kids are so fortunate these days in that they have these programs like yours, and having people to see the value in developing their purpose and finding their passion. Um, so that's amazing, fantastic work. And I wish that it were easier to get into. And like you say, you have a lot of doors closed in your face because they see the value of it, but nobody wants to follow through on it. And I wish that it would be much easier to get into that space and influence those minds in on this topic.
Well, a large part of what we did, and when we started, when we went back into, we're working now in a school space with the high school students. And the minute we got into there, I could actually, my body said, this is the place, you're in the right place now. So
Yes.
this is what you started off wanting to influence and impact young people. And now you're back doing that. This is what you're supposed to do. And so it really felt like it was the right place to do. But what we're also doing, because the world wants data, it wants information, it wants to know that actually this does actually work, even though there are lots of people saying yes, it does work. They don't want that. So what we're doing, particularly this year, but we did some last year, is we're gathering the data and we're providing the reports on the information that we have. So we do pre-assessment, we do post-assessment. We're able to supply the foundation with information regarding potential students that are potentially what we call at risk, if they have very high scores on the anxiety levels. And so we're able to provide that so that they can be watched and other. So we what we also do is we train peer coaches. So we have a peer coach program in the same organization where their alumni come and they get trained as peer coaches, and then they volunteer to go into the school space and to coach those that wish to, that have issues, that need to speak to someone, because there just isn't, there just isn't enough available for that, and there's lots and lots of concern. So our sort of framework is at a pyramid. So the work that we do is to get as many people. So we work at scale because we want to work to try and impact as many people as we can, to develop skills for them. So we teach them skills that they can use for themselves, so they can feel better. And then the next level will be working in smaller groups. So maybe doing like group coaching or group work or group interventions. And then the next level would be the peer coaches, where they will do one-on-one work. And then if they can't work with it, then those that are really at risk will go and see a social worker or go to a psychologist. So we just reduce the requirement up the stages so that those that really need it will get it. But the balance of the population, the balance of those that we're working with, are getting skills that they can use whenever they need it, because life happens, and certainly in under-resourced spaces life happens more,
Yes.
because it's really, really difficult in those spaces, financially. It's tough. And so given additional skills that they can use whenever they need to, really makes a difference. And it makes a difference to the point that we had somebody last year, anecdotally, went to the head of the foundation and said, look, I've stopped cutting. So she was an at-risk pupil. She was cutting, and cutting is the precursor to suicide ideation. That's the link, the next link. So she was cutting, and she said, look, I've stopped cutting. Her wounds were healing, and she said, it's because I went to the Superpower program, and I've started doing the work that they were teaching us. So that kind of thing, you impact one person, it's like it's all worth it. So that, and we had others that that obviously, anecdotally, this time what we're doing is we wanting to really measure before and after, because what we're doing this year is we're working with an entire grade. So we're working with an entire grade 10 group, and so it's not just, last year it was voluntary, and we had a much smaller group which changed depending on what they were doing as well outside of school. But we're working with an entire group, which is great. It's up to 75 kids at a time, but at least we can now measure effectiveness with a much bigger group as we go through the year, which is fantastic. And so being able to offer the data, to show the data, and the improvements is going to also be really lovely.
I echo everything that Jamila says. It's such powerful work, and it's not often, as you said, Jamila, well received in the environments where it should be. But I do feel that with children, if we are giving them these skills now, imagine how, I have kids, I've got 2 kids at high school. So I know, and I've got a kid that also self-harmed. So in fairness, I understand it. And my son doesn't come not from a privileged environment, or I call it differently advantaged environment. I know it's politically correct, disadvantaged or less advantaged, but these are critical skills. Under-resourced. I like what you said.
Because we don't,
Yes.
it just feels like it's either resourced or under-resourced.
Under-resourced.
Yes, and yes, very resourced.
Yeah.
Some places are hugely resourced, but yeah.
So I find that even in the school that I had my son at, which is a private school, they were just not equipped to deal with this, right? He could not find the necessary outlet there. And so I'm very passionate about the work that you're doing as well, because if we can influence a different thinking pattern, that is powerful, because the emotions that you're referencing is connected to their thoughts. And those are powerful ways to either take us forward or hold us back. So it's some really inspirational work that you're doing there, and I'm keen to hear more about it and how it unfolds in the future. And Jamila, I don't know. I always feel there's a call to action with every guest, how we could work together with whoever's doing this impact work, for the greater good of humanity. I just want to acknowledge our regular from the US, Ronald. Thank you as always for joining us. We had Ronald on not so long ago, and he's such a kindred soul himself and always sharing his wisdom and insight with us. But his raw and real, authentic story also always comes across. He says amazing transitions to human benefit. That was in relation to one of your points that you made, Chantal. And he also said, this is key, we must eat too. I think that's connected to free food. Food isn't free. And he says, getting realer as well. For the rest that are there, please do engage, interact, ask Chantal if there's anything in particular you want to know, or share your own stories. We're looking forward to hear more.
Mm. Mm.
Jamila, do you want to follow up with
Yeah.
anything else on questions for
Yeah,
Chantal?
I think, Chantal, it's like I said, I just want to also just say again what fantastic work you're doing. And definitely, Anissa, I think, with having you having young kids as well, and my experience with my son growing up is that it makes such a huge difference if there's just someone there to listen, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of kids are going through so many challenges in this day and time, and it's we can't even compare it to what we experienced growing up. When I look back, I think, my gosh, we were so fortunate because we didn't have the demands placed on us that these kids have now, and there's really
Mm-hmm.
nobody to speak to about this because they don't want people to know, because of the way that our world is these days, and the environment where you are meant to be perfect, you are meant to perform, you are meant to be a student, and so they have their own insecurities, which I think is something that you are dealing with and you are looking into and providing the platform for them to know that it's safe for them to share, and it's safe for them to realize that there is a way out of this. This kind of work, as rewarding as it can be, Chantal, it must also be very taxing on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it can be taxing, absolutely. It can take it out of you because you are holding a space. You're holding spaces a lot,
Yes.
and we have to be very cognizant of that, and really consciously take time out. So we've come through quite a contracted full space where we've had to do all this coaching and doing the superpower program, but now we've got a bit of a break because we've got these public holidays, and so we've finished the coaching program and we've got a bit of space with the public holidays just to breathe out as well. And we will be taking time out too, because the thing is, when you are an entrepreneur, when you have got a tiny little company, you tend to do everything. You don't have time. I mean, we have 6-day weeks, regular.
Yes.
That's our life, 6-day weeks. We haven't had a 2-day weekend for a long, long time. I think this weekend coming is going to be the first weekend that we're going to actually have 2 days that we don't have something that we have to do on them, in terms of a workshop or a superpower program or training or what have you. And so that is, you kind of get used to it, but you also forget that you do actually need the break. You need that mental thinking space, as well as the holding. You want to have the break away from just holding a space consistently. So it's important for us to keep that in mind as well, and give ourselves breaks too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just become the norm for us to be working these 6-day weeks, 7-day weeks, and there's always something else that needs to be done. Anissa, we talk about this often, is that there's always, your work is never done. And because we're entrepreneurs, we don't want to say no. Because we're single moms, Anissa and I, we don't want, or we don't have the luxury of being able to say no. So how is it, Chantal, that we or people like us then, make the deliberate pause, make sure that we get to be aware of the present situation that we are in, And how do we ensure that we are as emotionally fit as we can possibly be? Because we tend to just go with the flow and carry on and not say no and not find the time for self. How do you propose that we actually put that in place?
Yeah. So first of all, in terms of taking breaks, what I always say is you actually have to put them into your calendar. You've got to put them into your calendar and say that's where it's going to be, and I'm not going to mess with it. Because otherwise it won't happen. I mean, I know that's what happened last year. We sort of said, oh, maybe, no, oh, maybe, no, oh, maybe, no, and so it was, and then, but last year we did take a chunk of time when we went out, and it's like the world doesn't stop when you're not working. You have to take this chunk of time. That's great. And so you're like, well, great, then I'm going to take up a chunk of time again. And so it's to carve that time out so it's there, and that you can tell everyone we're not around, we can't do it. It fits into the calendar, because in the calendar of the foundation we know what we're dealing with. But it's more, I mean, those times out are really important, and that's part of the nourishing. So in our emotional fitness we have these five pillars, and the nourishing one, which is around self-care as well as food. So we always think of nourishing like feeding ourselves, and what are we eating, and how are we eating, and making sure that when and what we eat is really as wholesome and as good as it can be. Drink plenty of water. That's great, and that's just a given. We have to do that. But nourishing also is around self-care. Like, what are we doing around self-care?
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
taking time out for ourselves? Are we doing the things that we really like to do? Engaging with our friends, going to the spa, having our nails done, reading. I love to crochet, so doing my crocheting just is lovely. And just making sure that we take some time out for ourselves, because otherwise it's all going to, you're going to actually feel that you get threadbare. I don't know about you, but I actually can feel in my whole body, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm getting threadbare. I can actually feel that it's starting to fray at the edges. And then I actually, my mood frays,
Yeah.
my sleep might be impacted. I mean, sleep is so important. Getting enough sleep is vital. But you'll start to see it, you'll feel it in your body, and then you'll start behaving like that as well, starting to snap at things, and suddenly
Everyone around you feels it too.
yes, everybody feels that, before, when you were able to cope with the load shedding or the idiots on the road, now suddenly you're screaming at everyone and you're telling them how idiotic they are, and they don't know how to drive, and get off your phone. Before it was like, now it's
Yeah,
not so much.
I think you're tapping into sort of, this is the grace aspect that we talk about, because if we're not going to extend grace to ourselves, we're not going to extend grace to others. So I before we continue on this part, I just want to acknowledge those that are here on Instagram. Thank you, Dr. Maria, always also joining us from the UK. And thank you, Judith, for joining us. Judith, I think, is almost at the point of having a baby. So we're really grateful that you're here with us today. And please do engage with some of your wisdom and insights as well. But coming back to the grace aspect. So you've mentioned some ways that you've incorporated into your daily interactions for yourself. How do we then do that for ourselves and others, and on a scale that we know we are in tune with ourselves? I think you mentioned the sensations we tap into in our body, we'll know. But you want to expand a bit on that, so that those that are listening in is able to
Yes.
then understand what are ways they could consider. So not only the ways that you've mentioned, I'd be keen to get a sense of that as well.
Yeah, I think,
Sorry, and before you go on, Chantal, sorry, I apologize, but can you also just explain to us a little bit about the tapping? Because that's also a state of grace and self-care and whatnot. And when can we do this? Is it just, can we do this at any time in the day? Should we set aside a time in the mornings or in the evening? Or if I'm just stressed out during the day, can I just stop, take a break, and use that method?
Yes. Yes, so I think for everybody, so everybody's lives and days are different, and it's really important to build a sort of some kind of practice and understand and knowing when you are able to do certain things in order to sort of start building something that's going to be sustainable and give you foundation. But a lot of the interventions, so you talk about the tapping, we just call it touching. Um, those things can be done at any time. For us, it's really about building a habit. It's about building a practice so that you can sustain it over a period of time. So for us, I'm a morning person. And so I like to get up early in the morning. I like to do my yoga. We do a meditation practice and some study, some, short study space. And then we go into the day when we go and have our breakfast, shower, and then get into the work environment. But also taking breaks during the day because, sitting is the new smoking. So you kind of need to also be able to allow yourself time during the day, even if it's a matter of putting a timer on and going, right, it's time. I need to get out of here. I need to go and stand on the grass. I need to get into the sunlight. I mean, grounding oneself is really, really important. And being able to stand on the grass or stand on the ground with our bare feet. Not many people do that anymore. When we were younger, we used to run around bare feet all day. And then we sort of start, no, we need to wear shoes and we need to wear shoes all the time. And the rubber it just stops us from actually getting all those wonderful connections through the ground. And so just being able to go out and physically, and I know it's not easy in the middle of winter, and it's certainly not a good thing to do it when there's snow, but if you can do something where you can ground yourself regularly or go outside, breathe some fresh air and take a walk around is really important as well. Have to have those breaks. We have to have those breaks. And specifically to find a space where there is something around us that is plants or nature or ground or something, because we know we spend so much of our times in buildings. So whether it's from a work perspective, we're in buildings, outside there's tarmac or paving. But if we can have a space where there's a bit of garden, a space where you literally go into that space and you'll feel the difference. I mean, we can walk into a mall. We don't do malls because we walk into the malls and we just feel like we're walking into a dead space. We're like, oh my goodness, that place was like dead. I feel like I've been attacked by a dementor. Let's just get out of here quickly because it's very dead. It's a dead space. Some corporate environments are dead spaces. You walk in, you're like, oh, I feel like I'm being drained. I haven't even got into the lift. I'm already feeling drained. So, you kind of have to protect yourself. And we do that we do that too. We protect ourselves energetically from dead spaces, but then we also go and re-energize by getting out. And we're very lucky in this country that we have such amazing weather and we do have spaces that we can go into. So that's really important. And then the other skills that you can learn, your breathing skills, as well as what Jamila said, which was, she called it tapping, we call it touching because we don't actually tap. It's come out of EFT, but we have a process called SNAC. We have a full process called the emotional fitness class or shape of emotion, but also just the touching of the pressure points or the acupressure points, which just brings your body back into homeostasis, brings your body back into balance. So our bodies are constantly wanting to get into homeostasis or balance. And, our environmental, our stresses, our emotions will take us out, will constantly take us out. And our bodies are trying to find ways to get back. But often we don't allow us the time to come back into balance because, we're rushing from one thing to the next. So we've got really traumatized or really angry by something that's happened, but we don't have the opportunity to kind of get back into balance. And breathing exercises or doing what we call SNAC just brings your body back into it brings the parasympathetic nervous system online, and it just says, okay, you're safe. It's okay. You don't have to be in constant fight or flight. When we're in constant fight or flight, that's when we get into trouble. That's when we get ill because we're not releasing those hormones and chemicals. And that's when we get ill, whether mentally or physically, we'll get ill if we don't get to a space where we can release them. And not knowing how, I mean, animals will shake themselves. They'll, be chased by a lion literally, and then you'll see those back afterwards. They shake themselves. They're literally shaking the adrenaline out of their systems. But what do? We like go, oh yeah, I was hijacked. Come back to work the next day. I was hijacked. But we've done nothing about that adrenaline. We might have nightmares, but we've done nothing about actually physically ensuring that this cortisol and adrenaline has been released from our body. And because everybody's different, not everybody sort of goes, well, I don't know that I want to do this thing on my face because I look funny. It doesn't work for me. Breathing. We were speaking on last Saturday to this group of school kids, and the one guy was, this breathing stuff doesn't work for me. I just want to go out there and hit someone. Well, that's okay. No, that's not. So
Chantal, on that note, because there's a question I'm dying to ask you, and it's kind of perfect timing. How does one then balance assertiveness with grace in these challenging situations or conversations? If breathwork is not going to help someone, or journaling doesn't, what are other ways there?
There are so many ways, and it's so amazing because, getting active is one thing that you can do. So if you're the type of person that is sort of wanting to go out there and be, getting active is really, really good.
That's Jamila's line. That's Jamila. She's the active one.
Whacking the ball in the padel court, that's great. Or going to the gym, or doing boxercise, or kick, whatever it is. But getting active is so good, because in the getting active, we are expending those chemicals, and then we bring the feel-good chemicals online. So it's really, really great. And everybody does things differently. So for me, I love yoga. Yoga's my go-to thing. But other people are like, oh no, yoga's too slow. It doesn't work for me. I like to be more active. Then go to CrossFit. Then go to boxercise. Then get onto the padel court. Do what you need to, but get active, because that is another way that you can do it. If somebody gets really angry, yes, I've also said in these classes, if you get angry, that's great. Just don't go hit someone. Go into your room, go and box the pillow, go scream into the pillow, go and get rid of or throw the pillow. Do something, because that's what your body is wanting you to do. Your body is wanting you to get active, but don't go and do it to another person. That's just going to get into trouble.
Chantal, and the other thing is, we're also taught not to feel our emotions, and we must suppress it, and we must shame it, and it's not good. So we hold it in. So I like that you highlighting the fact that it is okay, just the right outlet for it is important.
Yes, and that is a large part of what we do, because there is so much stigma and taboo, and in some cultures, there's no such thing as mental health issues. There's no such thing as depression. It's like, just get on with it. There isn't anything like that. But yet people still feel. So, and they don't feel good. And so what we do is we really just raise the lid on the fact that we have emotions. They drive everything we do, everything. So don't tell me that you have to be rational to make a decision, because actually your emotions are driving your decisions, whether you like it or not. So we just have to manage and regulate and learn how to regulate our emotions in order to make those decisions properly, make good decisions, should I say, rather than make them out of emotion. But we do normalize feeling. We do normalize it. I mean, one of the things we do is we say to these young people, like, what have you been taught? Have you been taught that boys don't cry? Have you been taught that you're not supposed to show your emotions? And that you just get the nods. You get the nods. You get the nods, and you get the boys with their hands up, going, we're not allowed to show emotion. We've got to be strong. We can't show emotion. We've got to get on with it. So it's really important.
So, I mean, I think there's so much that we can learn from Chantal. I just want to acknowledge the comments again, as I've said I would. But then I'd love, Jamila, there's a question I think I'd love to end with, is that integration, the interplay. So if you could hold that thought, but let's read Ronald's comments again. My wife and I are in our 70s and acknowledging our latter years of usefulness and adventure. Love that. And then, yes, tapping, I have the books, but not focused on the process. this could be a new adventure for me. Do reach out to Chantal. Maybe there's a nice way that you can collaborate on working together, even, Ronald.
Yes, we have a free class. It's called the emotional fitness class, which we have online. And you can access that, and you can just take it whenever you want to. It's recorded, so you don't have to show up for it. You can do it whenever you like, and that we have on our website. So it's a guided process, and anybody can access it at any time.
May
Please
I
do put
ask
the link
Chantal
in.
that you can, yes, please put it in
Yes.
the comments so that we can always go back to it when we need to
Yes.
find
Oh,
it.
there we go. Comments. There we go. There we are. Fantastic. I'll do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I
Yeah.
can't, got to join the YouTube or something.
No, that's fine. You can always go back onto the LinkedIn post and just put it back in where the original post was. Jamila,
Great.
please lead with that last question because I'm dying to know how this integration is going to work.
Yeah, so how do you, in terms of integration, how do you see the interplay between grit, grace, and gratitude in achieving personal growth and success in our lives? And this is just so pertinent in today's time, Anissa,
Yes.
to be able to have that sort of a guideline and just to let us know how you personally would manage this.
And I absolutely love the three things. So the grit, grace, and gratitude. So grit is like what people will know as emotional is resilience, and what we call is emotional fitness. And it's really building that belief in yourself and really pushing through and knowing what you want and building that emotional fitness. So with emotional fitness will obviously come the ability to be able to deal with life more gracefully, because we are not going to be just thrown around like a rag doll from pillar to post with the stresses and strains and issues that are happening in our lives. We're not just going to be thrown around. We are going to be able to deal with them far more resourcefully because we've built this ability to do so. And so being able to approach and live life with grace or more gracefully. And then gratitude for me is beautiful. It's so lovely to have that, because really gratitude is one of the elements of our nourishing pillar, where it's really about finding those things that we are grateful for. Because when we are grateful for things and we focus on what we have rather than what we do not have, then suddenly life opens up. That path becomes a little bit flatter. Suddenly there are flowers that are growing on the side of the rocky path. Suddenly the rocks don't look so big and the mountain doesn't look so high, because we start being grateful for what it is that we do have, rather than what we don't. And the gratitude, I mean, we know there's research around how important and how useful gratitude is in our lives. And I think, for me, the grit will get you through to get to do the work that you want to, which will allow you to live gracefully. And this is for anybody, anywhere. And then to remember to be grateful for everything that you have, and for whatever it is, the history, the ancestors, the culture, the religion, the spirituality, whatever it is, education, whatever it is, just to be grateful for that, because it's brought you to where you are today.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Anissa, I think when we first decided to do this podcast and we stumbled upon the topic, we didn't realize how the enormity of this and the conversations that we are going to have, and the different approaches and opinions and attached to all of the guests that have come on. For me, I truly feel that I've been so enriched with everybody's a take on how they interpret this in their lives. And I'm just so grateful also to you, Chantal, for being here and sharing with us. And I just feel as if we only just touching on it now, and I feel like we need another hour to be able to continue with this discussion. But hopefully we'll have Chantal on again, and
We
hopefully,
will. We
definitely,
will.
yes.
She's got to come back on. She's got to. So
And, and,
on
and
that
just to
note,
acknowledge, sorry, before you go, just to acknowledge what important work you're doing here, Chantal,
Thank
and to
you.
encourage you to just keep on with that grit, because we are certainly grateful for it.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's been lovely. Thank you for the time, effort, and energy that you have put in to putting this podcast together, because I know that it takes time, effort, and energy to do that.
Yes, so deep gratitude to you, Chantal. I, in summary, want to just say that there's been lots of insights that I've certainly gauged from today's conversation. As Jamila says, it's been enriching. That's actually my word for the year. So it feels like it's just manifests every single time we have the segment on with each new guest. So I'm very grateful. I'm also feeling enriched by those that do participate or join us, whether they do so silently, just your energy here, we appreciate. So thank you. Any last closing comment on your part, Chantal, before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I would say kind of the thing that I'd like to, the challenge I'd like to leave to everybody, whoever's listening, is to say, just reconnect with your body and listen to what it is telling you. Really reconnect with it and listen to what it is telling you, because our emotions sit in our body. And yeah, your body will tell you, and then take the first step. Take one step, whatever that step is, to make your world a better place.
It's beautiful. Thank you for the Instagram people who joined. I see Hamoud joined a little bit late, but thank you anyway. You can catch the replay afterwards. We normally stay afterwards for the debrief, Chantal, if you can, for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then I'm going to be ending the live until next week. So thank you again to all. And Jamila, my amazing co-host, who's just so humble and gracious always.
Mm.
I'm
Thank you,
ending the
Anissa.
live.
Bye, everybody.